I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to play a video game, but I do find it's funny when it's like, you know, we've talked before, maybe not officially on the podcast, but like I'm definitely into it more than you. But like just in this instance of you sitting down and playing it, you've made it there. And I have done it twice now and not even made it to that point.
Well,
I think
because you've done it twice, though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. I guess if I would have just picked up. I also, so like I know I like have a habit of restarting Pokemon games and stuff, but like
a habit,
I know
problem.
It's a problem. I need to go to what's the Pokemon version of AA?
Rehab? Yeah, who knows?
it's just rehab.
Yeah.
Let me rub my hands together. Do you think this will pick up?
Everybody. Oh, yeah. No, it's 100% going to pick up. I heard the entire thing. Yeah.
Nice. That's good. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Limitless Partcast, the podcast hosted by yours truly, Andrew.
Wait. You should do another take of that because you did all right. Then you went right into it, and you won't have proper editing room there.
And you should eat worms, Brandon.
Or unless you kept the all right.
You doubt my editing ability to be able to edit
I mean,
that out?
just from my own editing experience.
I'm going to edit that and keep this and make you look like a fool.
I mean, that would be a lot of selective editing.
Son.
Get doxxed. Dude, that's a great insult.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Limitless Partcast, the podcast hosted by yours truly, Andrew, and my good pal, partner in crime, Mr. Brandon. He's the other host of this podcast that is called the Limitless Partcast, and we do it together.
Hello,
over
everybody.
Zoom, talking into microphones.
We
Brandon,
do.
What's the word on the street?
Word on the street is that life is getting busy, but busy isn't bad, you know.
Where are we going to be in a week's time?
Oh, the greatest city in the world. Yeah, no. Big city that's named after the state it's in.
Sri Lanka?
Yep.
That's a city? That's like a city country, right? No, it's a...
Yeah.
It's... Oh, wait. Okay, never mind.
City?
I'm never going to be able to do anything in geography.
Are you talking about Vatican City?
No, I'm not talking about the Vatican City. Okay,
well,
I know that difference at least. Sri Lanka...
Are you talking about
I'm on Google Maps. This podcast is sponsored by Google Maps.
Are you talking about Madripoor?
No, I'm talking about Sri Lanka. It's the island. It's a country. So it's much more than just a city. So I was wrong about that. But Sri Lanka is a country off the southeast coast of India. But I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking of a different one. What's the country? I think
you're thinking of Madripoor.
No, what's the country with... Oh, Universal... it's Singapore. I'm thinking of Singapore, which is like a city country thing, right?
Wait, is it?
Yeah,
is
I'm pretty
it the
sure.
Actual city?
It's a country.
Well, yeah, it's just a country city. Oh, yeah, it is.
It's because it's a very small.
Yeah.
I want to go to Singapore.
Yeah, I mean Singapore's cool. I thought you were talking about Madripoor, but that's because that's also very similar to.
I'm not familiar with what Madripoor is. Is that Europe?
No. It's Asia. It's right beneath Singapore, actually.
All right. Well, if it doesn't have a theme park, I don't know where it is.
Right next to it. It's also where they. Wait, am I wrong? Oh my god, I might be so stupid. I'm so stupid. No, wait. I'm so stupid. I am literally so dumb. Madripoor. I was thinking of a different country that I don't know the name of. Madripoor is the name of the city in Falcon and the Winter Soldier in Marvel.
Oh, is it not real?
So stupid. No, because there's another small city that like that. But it's not a country in the way that it's another small city that's on an island in Southeast Asia.
If you're listening,
which one it is.
If you're listening and you know what city / country Brandon is talking about, you could send it into the show.
People will be like, it doesn't exist.
Go on Anchor and give it your best guess. Go on Anchor. .fm.com. I don't know what the link is. You guys figure it out. You go on there and you can send in your answer, or you can send it in by a voice recording. If we do by some chance deem that, one, you are correct, and two, your voice is as wonderful and gracious to listen to as ours, then we'll maybe talk about that answer.
I think I was thinking of
nope, don't get it. I'm gonna bleep it out.
No,
I'm gonna bleep that out.
I might be wrong. No, that's
just
that is, yeah,
listeners.
but that's but it's not a country, or it's not a city. Okay, that's Brandon's fun fact.
Yeah, we went off the rails early in that one, but that's all right, because this episode's gonna be a little loose. We don't have any specific show notes. It shouldn't run. I mean, I think after our 3-part spooky season podcast where they were each running over an hour, and the last one was an hour and 40 minutes or something. I think we can hit you guys up with a slightly shorter, more condensed and looser episode. In fact, like I said, this is the Limitless Parkcast, and we usually talk about theme parks, but there's really not going to be much theme park talk in this. And that's because we do whatever we feel like. Brandon and I are very, unique individuals. We like a lot of different things, have a lot of different, we're not one dimensional. We can talk about more than theme parks probably.
But we're going to talk about the other thing that I talk about a ton on this podcast.
Wait, what?
What is that, Andrew?
Movies.
Film.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but they're actually, I guess I just lied a little bit, because there are a few very small, or just one very small theme park news thing that I wanted to touch on briefly. I'm going to jump into that. And before we do, just wanted to say IAPA, we're recording this on Monday, November 14th. It'll be out tomorrow, hopefully on the 15th. The expo is happening this week in Orlando. There's some stuff, that's already been announced for the show. Some stuff I'm sure that it will be announced in the coming weeks. We will talk about that hopefully next episode, and we have a special show coming up next week in a way. So when we do that, that'll be talked about there, but just know that, we're keeping tabs on it. I have Brandon hot on the IAPA website. I told him he's got to be monitoring it 8 hours a day to make sure that we're getting all the coverage. So that's coming. Don't worry. I saw that there's a lot of cool tech and new ride systems. Shout out to, I know this was a week ago or so, because we took a week off too, but there was a week ago that Intamin stage, I think somebody sent it in the Limitless Park group chat, that stage that moves as a ride.
Oh yeah.
Remember seeing that? That's crazy. Yeah. I think it was Intamin.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
I think it was. I think Drake might have sent it, but yeah, no, that thing is cool. You should try to link that video in the show notes.
I will,
because we should actually talk about this for a second.
Okay.
Yeah,
just because let's talk about it. I don't have any link handy or anything like that.
Yeah, I will. I'm trying to find the thing that was.
I think I saw it on Screamscape.
But in general, it was it was a general platform with 6, if you look it up, you'll see it. Yeah, it was Intamin. And you go to the show notes, you'll see probably a video that we will. Yeah,
I will link a video to this, but right now we'll do the best to describe it. I just found it on Screenscape. Basically, it's a rotating and moving stage that's circular with what looks like 6 ride vehicles. Yeah, that are if you think of an artist's palette, where the paint goes, except instead of I know those are kind of out on the outer edges, make it all symmetrical. So you have a circle and then 6 circles.
Yeah, they're smaller circles with ride vehicles on them.
I'm trying to describe this good. I'll link it.
Okay, yeah, each of those the actual full table, circular table has a pivoted axis, and then also each of the 6 of the unique ride vehicles also have their own axis of orientation that it can tilt upon. And so then you can have theming on the outside. There's There's like a small action, like it's like 18 meters or something. There's like there's like a small, like a pretty small like clearance area.
I'm reading the Screamscape thing too, and it's dynamic motion stage ride concept. It's just supposed to be, it rotates on a different amount of axes. The interesting thing that I didn't know until I'm reading this right now is the first installation of the ride is already set. And I remember reading about this attraction that I'm about to say too, but I just didn't realize the two were related. Efteling is that theme park, I believe, in the Netherlands. That's like very well themed. It has like, other than Rise of Resistance, it has like Symbolica, which is considered the other like best trackless dark ride in the world. They're getting a ride called, I might say this wrong, Danse Macabre. Danse Macabre. I think. Yeah. That's what it's going to be called, and it's opening in 2024, and it's going to use this ride/show vehicle machine. So I'm interested to see. I don't really know much about the attraction, but I'm interested to see that come to light. Is there like any way that you'd like to see a park implement this? Because I think this is like perfect for like Disney or Universal to pick up if they wanted to.
It could be. The main thing I would do is that there's also the main thing, the two other things I wanted to touch on is that also with these axes, there's also like a drop element to it. So you can have like not like a drop tower, but it can like drop for a certain length. Like think spoilers for Rise of Resistance. There is like the little drop element in that where it's like 2 stories or whatever. Like you probably have that same amount of pitch in there, like to drop. But then the other thing is that for the area surrounding those ride vehicles, it can be an actual themed environment, or it can be completely digital projection dome based, which is just like a good thing for variety for different parks of like different budgets and everything like that. I mean, obviously, as a person who likes to see well integrated screens and then actual real theming, it's, full screen is a little bit meh, but like, to have the opportunity there for different levels of parks with different budgets is good. That's really nice that they have that option. It just looks like at the end of the day, what it is, it's essentially an interactive show in a way. Like it's a ride, but it can be in a show type environment. I'm sure like the applications for this are probably like endless as far as, with projections and stuff like that goes. I was trying to think of a Disney thing that would be outside of the box to implement it in, and instead of just saying like, like a Marvel thing, or like even I was thinking that Mary Poppins thing that didn't come to fruition could maybe like do something with that. But like, what if I know some of the films just got replaced within the past 3 years or so, but what if they took this and put it in the World Showcase shows? Like instead of the Circle Vision movie, they somehow took that out, implemented. I don't know what the footprint is for this compared to those shows, but I can imagine they'd be probably similar. And you sorry. No, you go.
Yeah, and you just have that, and you have a screen or projections around it, so it's still telling a story like a show, but it's a little bit more interactive and ride based in a way. I don't know if capacity could handle that from the pavilion standpoint, but just from a experience of like updating that, but still keeping the idea of maybe an educational like film based thing. I think that's a perfect fit.
Well, I'll build on that, and I'll say, like, do you know the original plans for like I think it was the Japan pavilion, other than the Mount Fuji coaster? Maybe this was China, but they were supposed to have like a theater with like the rotating theater in a kind of way of like a carousel of progress thing with a show for that. I think it was either China or Japan. I can't remember which. But they were supposed to have a rotating theater show, and that would be kind of a cool way to bring this back. It's a circular theater way thing. But what?
No, honestly, that's perfect. And even like think of like if they ever wanted to by any chance like update Carousel of Progress or do that type of thing in maybe a different way. I don't know, but I don't think that would be the way the way to do that. But I don't necessarily know either. Thing. But I could see like, okay, depending on how big this is, like the individual ride vehicle things, everything is getting a scene. So maybe instead of the theater moving around, this is moving around and the stages are static, and then one vehicle moves to the next scene. Maybe there is a little bit more interactivity and motion, but it's still, as long as you keep the original idea of it. They won't do that. Definitely, they would much rather, touch something less sacred, I'm sure, but I think that'd be cool too.
Well, it's interesting because the way you phrased it I know some of the films had just been swapped out and you were talking about Disney. I immediately thought you were going to go to PhilharMagic.
Oh.
And I was like, that would actually be an interesting way to do this, because the way I should have pitched this entire thing is, yes, it is a simulator inside it. It has simulator capabilities inside a show environment. And whereas you can have simulator environments like Star Tours or stuff that have it has a narrative, it has a video going along the entire thing, but this would be a giant show environment. And that's when you think of PhilharMagic or Muppet Vision 3D or something. But it's if you had this ability for movement plus a bigger showscape, I think something like PhilharMagic would work perfect, where it's a bunch of different IPs, but it's there's a general thing. That show would work well with movement. I don't even know if the Aladdin segment is still in there since they've updated it, but I know the Coco segment's in there with them flying around along with the dragon dog thing I don't remember the name of. But it adds movement, and movement added to a show as even as shallow as this could be. It couldn't be that. It doesn't have to be that intense, but slight movement does add to immersive in a lot of immersivity.
Immersiveness.
Immersiveness. Yeah,
I don't know.
Different contexts, but yeah.
That's my new favorite idea. I think maybe not favorite, but I think that would apply the best. And you just hit it perfectly. You hit on the fact that this has a range of motion that can be, it can be a little bit more extreme probably, or a little more toned down depending on where it is and what experience. Like if you do a Reflections of China-esque thing, you're not going to have this thing, dropping everywhere. I'm not saying that. But that's the thing. It seems like this really works as far as it can be a more thrilling experience, or it can just add movement to make it more immersive. That's terrific. Yeah. The possibilities for this thing, I wonder what else will be announced at IAPA, and if this will be my favorite thing to come out of it, because there's been some other cool stuff so far, and I'm sure there will be throughout the rest of the week. But this thing, if you want to count it as an IAPA thing, is just one of the coolest that I've seen, if not the coolest.
Yeah. It just has cool capabilities.
Exactly.
Which is a lot of what IAPA is just, this thing could be cool in this context, is not specifics, but that's what a convention is for. So
exactly. And then we'll see a tenth of it come to fruition.
Exactly.
If that, but that's all right. Okay. Well, I like talking about that. Honestly, that was probably better to talk about than the other thing I had, but we can quickly touch on this. Disneyland announced, this was last week or something, they announced that they were going to revamp the Tarzan treehouse into the Adventureland treehouse.
Yeah, I mean, so this thing had been, the Adventureland treehouse. This thing had been under heavy construction for 2 years now, a year, where there's just been tarps up and everything. It might have just been a year, but time conflates everything via the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But so it's just been under construction tarps and everything and walling for forever, and they had no news of what it was going to be, and everyone was is it going to be Encanto, is it going to go back to Swiss Family Robinson? And the answer is no to all of it. And it's
it is Swiss
maybe
Family
yes
Robinson.
No, it's not. It is the Adventureland
the Blue Loop
Treehouse.
Article I have
but
otherwise
it's featuring Disney's Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. So it is, but it's not it's not Swiss Family Robinson's treehouse. It's the Adventureland treehouse, so that they can add in more things in there for IP integration.
Yeah, true. The whole thing, from what I'm reading about it and read about it, is it's paying homage to the original treehouse, which I guess from here it says
it was 1960. The Swiss Family.
Yeah, it was. It opened in 1962 as the Swiss Family Treehouse. At some point, I think 1999 was changed, into Tarzan's treehouse. So now they're kind of going back to it. But yeah, like you said, they're also, it's just kind of, you know, going to be this not generic treehouse because there's definitely going to be theming in it. But it's paying homage while also potentially opening the door for new possibilities down the line. I love this though. I don't have too much to talk about for the actual treehouse. Like, I don't think I've ever done it. You have, like, we never did that when we went to Disneyland, right?
I've been in that one.
The Disneyland one?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know in what occasion, but multiple. Like, we've only gone in it one time, but we've been to Disneyland so many times, and I remember doing it. Like,
I only have memories of Magic Kingdom's treehouse, but
I mean, I have plenty of memories of Magic Kingdoms.
That place is awesome.
It's great. It's great.
That's awesome. No, I think it's cool though. Like the pictures and everything, the concept art looks fine. I think it's very interesting that we're seeing this, you know, this driving force of IP in the parks and everything like that. And that's so much of a basis for a lot of things. Yet at the same time, nostalgia is definitely important right now. It's almost like people are very much weighing into that, and some of that's based in IP, but some of that is just like older attractions and stuff like that. And I know this isn't like a copy paste of the old thing, but just the idea that they're trying to sort of pay homage to the original makes me wonder, like, okay, are we going to see more nostalgia like this? I know we already kind of are, but you have the references to Guardians of the Galaxy, or references in Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind to like old Epcot attractions. Like, clearly there's this awareness to it. Whether it's cheap or not is up for debate, but like, I personally like to see a little bit more like, you know, older stuff or references to older things. So I think it's really cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, so with the whole referencing to older things, that's not a bad thing. I mean, they've been doing that for years. It's just not in attractions, just in merch and food. But the main thing is that it's not technically non-IP because it still is Swiss Family Robinson.
And they still could add more.
And it's also IP of Adventureland. And it is the IP of the old thing,
right?
But I like that this is happening. I think it's cool, but so many people are like, "Oh my God, Disney's doing a non-IP thing. Look, that means there's change happening." I'm like, no, I'm not going to call anyone an idiot, but I was just like, you guys are not like thinking through this. It's still IP technically. Because Swiss Family Robinson, there is the new Swiss Family Robinson show, movie thing, whatever, coming to Disney Plus in like a year or two, maybe. And
it's strategically placed nostalgia.
Exactly. It's nostalgia,
quote unquote original concepts that aren't really original.
Exactly, and it's not what everyone thinks or what people would have you believe it is. But
still, it is
but it is still not completely IP in the way that we think of it right now.
I understand. Yeah, I understand not wanting to be overly optimistic about it. I'm also in that camp. I will say though, it does, you know, when I hear it and when I see it, I can't help but be a little excited about it because, you know, you have, not that Tarzan's was bad, but like that was very much like, you know, blatant IP.
It's in your face.
Overlay. Exactly. Yeah. And this is a little bit more subtle. Could, you know, open the door for more IP or no IP. We'll see what goes on. And just the reference of a older attraction in Disneyland, not from opening, but from around that time, coming back in some sort of, you know, spiritual successor form. I can't help but love it in a way.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not optimistic about it. I love that this is happening. I think it's a cool way for it to go. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic when I say that it's not that it is IP based, because I think IP based things, if they're done well, are okay.
Oh yeah. I think we're pretty
we're very clear about that.
we're pretty pro IP in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah. But so it's like that's
Give me more Marvel.
Clarify that I'm like yeah, no. But in general, I'm not like against this, and I'm very happy that it's happening in the way that it's happening. So good for it.
Yeah, sick. So Disneyland has that going on. That's it for news. Not that it was a very big news segment, although I mean it was more than I expected that we were going to talk about. The bigger thing that we wanted to talk about, and the thing that Brandon alluded to with his other, you know, big interest of movies, is we both saw Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It was opening night last, what would that have been?
Thursday? But it was also Wednesday, though.
Oh, well, I mean, I know sometimes it premieres at certain things on Wednesday, so that would have been the night.
This had like a big Wednesday release. It's like for
really?
Like for most chains in the nation.
I didn't see anything when I looked at that. All the AMC stuff by me was, I mean, that was like opening night was Thursday, so I don't know. I know that can sometimes be a thing. Maybe I didn't look hard enough. But I saw it that Thursday the 10th. You saw it on Saturday the 12th?
Yes.
So your memory on it's probably a little more fresh than mine.
Fresher.
But we wanted to talk about it because while it's not directly theme park related, we might tie it in at the end a little bit. And also it's Disney, it's Marvel, and it's just movies. There's more entertainment in the world than just theme parks, especially the theme park season in a way is kind of winding down now. It's like we have, fall and all the festivities with October and Halloween and stuff like that. And a lot of regional parks are closed or closing. Maybe they'll have some events like, Kings Island as Winterfest, but like, it's not the full effect. So we're winding it down. We gotta broaden our horizons a bit and touch on other entertainment options. And right now we're going to do that with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. How do we want to go about talking about this? Because while, if you follow Brandon and I on Letterboxd, Brandon, you want to plug your Letterboxd?
Sure.
I don't even remember what mine is. Brandon and I both have, we're in the Letterboxd community. Brandon takes it seriously and I do not.
Let's not even take it seriously. I'm just on it all the time because I watch a lot of movies.
That's fair. And I watch some movies, and mostly those are mostly Star Wars, Marvel, and the Minions movie, Minions Rise of Gru.
And I do all things that aren't that, except for that I do all things that are that also as well.
Yeah, so if you follow both of us, you really get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, you get the best of both worlds. The way I think we should tackle this is just general thoughts without spoilers, then spoiler thoughts, like just spoiler-filled discussion just for a bit about things that, are important.
And I'll put a little timestamp tag thing for people in the show notes too, because there will be spoilers in this. But
not in this
probably
yet.
Well, not in this. Yeah, I'll put a timestamp.
We'll have a tag.
Exactly.
Like, hey,
exactly. But I just want to say that I forgot to kind of mention this at the beginning. Not that I'll put something in the title probably, but there will be spoilers. I think we'll probably not go into it that much. Like it's not like we're gonna rehearse the whole plot for you. But
no. There is one thing that is major spoilers though that I do want to talk about though.
Yeah,
this is my favorite scene in the movie.
Okay. So non-spoiler thoughts. The reason I brought up the Letterboxd thing too, sorry. But we gave it very similar scores. In fact, I think the same score, right? We both gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
I was teetering on more of the 3.5 to 4, but it nonetheless, yes, both very positive. From as you can tell from that, both very positive on it. And that's the main thing I wanted to say is that I don't know if we've mentioned this on the pod. I think maybe we have, but probably not. I vehemently do not enjoy Black Panther, the first movie. It is a fine movie. It is like a 6 out of 10. It's not a bad movie by any means. I like what it does a lot of stuff. It does the same. It does a lot of good things that this movie also does because obviously it's better. But like costume design in that movie, fantastic, and it continues to mainly be in this one. But it's like that movie does a lot of good things, but there are a lot of things that I dislike about that movie, aka story, CGI, special effects, and character writing in certain ways. But that is all fine, and that's why I said that is that this movie is a major improvement upon that. And I think it's also an unpopular opinion. Usually people love that movie. So,
Well, I was going to quickly interject and say my opinion about the original. When it came out, I loved it. It was like my favorite for a while. I still enjoy it, but I will say every watch that I have, I enjoy it a little bit less and less. Some of that might just be general fatigue of Marvel and seeing a movie so many times. But I also will say, there's stuff. You're right. There's some CGI issues. Brian likes to say the final battle is Black Panther for PS3 because of the CGI and graphics. So
it looks better than it would be on a PS3. That's what's funny about it. But hey,
yeah. But there's still a certain amount of it that some of it does leave something to be desired. It's like fine. It's a good story, but there's something missing from it the more I watch it. And I'm not sure I have an answer for what that is, but it doesn't matter. Point being, Black Panther, Brandon's pretty against, and I'm kind of lukewarm on it by now, although I am much more apt to praise it than him.
I mean, I still think it's positive. It's not a bad movie by any means.
I'd say you're at like a 6 out of 10. I'm at like a 7.
Yeah.
Like
that's
fair.
Okay. That's okay. Those are still positive ratings, people.
Yeah, exactly.
5 out of 10 is still a positive rating.
Well, 5 out of 10 is like perfectly, in my opinion, 5 out of 10 is perfectly in the middle. It is, it's not that you don't have positive or negative feelings. You're like you're indifferent about it. It's average. It's not bad. It's not good. I think that's how I think of it. And then anything above that, even a 5.1, if you wanted to get in a decimal territory, I think that's positive. 4.9 more negative. That's just how I look at it.
True.
People
and
are so
number ratings are stupid as well. So hey.
That is very true. But if you do go by number ratings, it does bother me how some people are like, if somebody says it's not a 10 or a 9 or even like an 8, that it's like bad. Like that's not true.
Yeah, and those people are just too biased to rating for things. At the same time,
at the same time though, it does make sense because think like how like grading in school works, for instance.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the American grading system is absolutely idiotic. So
it really is. But like the fact, it's like 60. So like a 6 out of 10. That's like people already think of that as like a D in grading. So that's what everybody's raised on, at least in the U.S. So it's so natural to think of it negatively. So I get it, but I would love to erase that from society as soon as possible. Whatever. That's, rant
There's also
over.
reasons though why it works in the U.S. school, or why it makes sense in the U.S. school system. There's certain, like, if you only get 60% of the questions on a 100 question exam right, you aren't doing that great. Like that is true.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
No, I know. Like I just wanted to bring that point
that makes sense. I'm just saying it translates into other things.
Yes,
like
and
this.
That's the bad
like
part.
Like movie reviews, which are more important.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So going on to actually talking about Wakanda Forever,
right?
Fairly positive on it. And there are a lot of things that this movie does right. There are things though that it does do wrong. But I do want to focus a little bit more on what it does right, because that's important it's better to talk about what it does right before you go negative on it. Is there any one thing that stood out to you about if you could choose one aspect that you would like to highlight here, what would you highlight as being a very positive aspect of the film for you?
The positive aspect for me is The thing that immediately comes to mind, and I know that you disagreed a little bit with me when we talked about it briefly yesterday, but just the way that they handled Chadwick Boseman's death. But it's not even that; it's the character's death in the movie. Like that is the character is dead, for obvious real life implications, but also just like that's how it happens. The movie is primarily about grief in a way, and I think that they handle that well. There's other characters, or an other character that dies. That's not spoilery, I don't think, because we're not mentioning the name, but we'll talk about that later probably.
I was shocked about that actually, but yeah.
I was too, but I think it compounded it in a way that made me say, okay, they're really not just doing this because he passed away. Like obviously they had to work it in some way, but they could have recast it, or they could have, maybe just made it not as big of a deal, but because they really doubled down on it and it affected a lot of people in the movie, I think that was handled in such a heart-wrenching way, and I mean that in an emotional and good terms, And I really enjoyed it from that perspective.
Well, the most impressive thing, I guess this is my highlight of it, is going to compound on yours, kind of. I do not feel as if certain explorations of grief and the ideas of vengeance and such, and how one deals with loss and everything, is as good as some media has done, even in the superhero genre. I mainly bring up Batman in certain things, not even in movies, but in other things. But the main thing that I want to commend this film for is they had a script all done. Everything was already done for Black Panther 2 before Chadwick had passed. Mm-hmm. But then they went and redid the entire thing. Oh, it wasn't like, yes, it was like Namor was possibly going to be a villain in it, and like in that kind of a way. And certain things might have been the same, but they completely went back and said, okay, so this thing happened. Let's make a movie about this. About the real world stuff. Not really that it's the real world stuff, but it's that takes heavily into context the real world occurrences. And for them to try to do that, and the main amazing way that this film functions is as a tribute movie. I don't think outside of that it is the most important thing. I don't think it's truly great functioning outside of the context, which I think could hurt the film as time passes on and like as you get more removed from the context in which we are currently living. Not that it will make the film bad by any means, but there will be some emotional attachment stuff. Even if you have seen some of the Marvel movies and then you watch this one in like 10 years, I don't think some people will. I don't think it'll function as well.
It could become forgettable, maybe, exactly. Down the line, which is sad to say, but
yes. But as a tribute film, it does a beautiful job of attributing to ideas that were held by Chadwick as far as like what we understand and know from the general public that didn't know him too well. And also just from like all the people in the cast and behind the scenes with directors, cinematographers and everything, just them using this, or them being able to portray and pay tribute to this idea of this person. And they did it really well. So yeah, that's what was cool about it for me.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, when you saw it, because it was Saturday and it was in the middle of the day, so how big or how packed was the theater?
Very packed, and it was one of the worst theater experiences I've had in a while.
That's
because it's Black Panther and it's a big Marvel movie, and also this movie has it's a shame.
That's so sad. The reason I say it, I had one of the craziest experiences. So Caroline and I go to the opening night. I don't want to say premiere, but it was like the Thursday night thing. It was completely packed in that theater. And it's a Marvel movie, like you're saying, so you expect not people to be rowdy, but like just packed, and it's a certain amount of like blockbuster, just a lot of people in there, and you don't know how people might act or behave. And I enjoy like the cheering and things that happen in that, or Star Wars in certain instances. It's a very fun communal experience at times, but with this, knowing what the movie was going to be, I didn't really know like how that was going to feel. So the movie opens with the funeral scene just for T'Challa, and that all happens, and then they walk the coffin through. It like gets lowered down, and then eventually
doesn't get lowered down.
I don't remember what
up.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, but the scene ends. Things go quiet. I think the screen goes black actually, and then it does the Marvel title crawl. But there's no usual music. It's just purple, and it's a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. I have never, this theater is packed. I have never, ever heard a theater, or rather not heard a theater say anything. It was so silent. Everybody was just like in this state of sadness and like just response to this dramatic thing that just happened. It seemed like everybody in the theater cared about what happened. And the loss that it was, even obviously I'm assuming nobody knew him in the theater, but it just felt like it was such this shared. It was the exact opposite of like a, Infinity War or Endgame cheer where everybody comes back at the end and everybody's freaking out. It was the exact opposite, but it was still such a fantastic shared theater experience because everybody went like silent. It was so somber, but that made it so much more memorable. It's honestly one of the most memorable theater experiences I've had ever, like right up with like Force Awakens, but in the complete opposite vein. So I'm really sad to hear that you didn't have that experience. I was hoping that you would have.
Yeah, everyone was quiet during that part, but it was mostly the rest of the movie that people came in like 30 minutes late to and that's just part of the blockbuster situation of you're
that's
going
just movies in
midday
general.
No, you're going to a blockbuster midday on a weekend. That's that problem.
I don't know. That doesn't bother me. Not to be like that should or shouldn't, but like that's just going to happen. That's just going to a public forum. Like, I don't think I've ever been in a movie where people haven't shown up late or like been walking out.
Well, yeah, but like 5 minutes late is fine. 10 minutes late is, weird, but 30, 40 minutes in, that's just ridiculous.
Like, what are they doing? Unless they're like, because being loud.
Then why are they even there? It doesn't matter. Go to a different time. It's an opening weekend of a big movie. It has a billion times.
Maybe they had an issue with their car or their kids.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't matter.
But
I think,
I will say though that I do understand, and I kind of enjoyed why they did the opening that way. But quite honestly, I don't really think it was that. I think it was important to do it with the with it not being all the regular normal Marvel characters, and it just being Chadwick as T'Challa in all the things and all the lines. But I do kind of think that I think doing the silence kind of detracted from the film in general, in my opinion, because with Black Panther, it does have a very interesting sonic landscape with their scores. Not that I love it all the time, but also soundtracks and everything. And what I would have rather preferred is for them to do it in the style, or like do the opening theme style in more of a orchestral not an orchestral, but in the way that they did. There's like the opening funeral ceremony where there's all the dancing and singing, all the music and everything. If they did it more like that, where I understand that that's more the celebration of life, like section of the funeral aspect, and then there's the more sad after parts, and then it runs right into this, and it's like, yeah, you got to keep that somber tone. But I think like if you're gonna do that moment as a celebration of look at this actor, look at all the things that he has done, and look at how much he means to our universe and all our films and everything, it's a little bit better to do that specific in like that function of the fanfare of all that is typically associated with the opening logos, to actually do it with a celebrational fanfare instead of the somber. The somber, it has like an important and interesting context or like contrast to that opening crawl then, but I think it could have been done better as a celebrational thing. But to each their own, and I don't think it was bad that they did it this way. So, whatever. I'm not the filmmaker, but
right. Well, we gotta let's jump to
yes.
I guess this will be spoiler territory. So right now I'll put whatever the time is that we're on. I will put that in the old show notes, and let's talk spoilers from now on. What was like the biggest surprise for you, or like, I don't know.
I think that's easy.
Yeah, I think it's probably the same thing, but I just want to hear you.
Yes. So my favorite scene in the movie consists of when Shuri finally takes the synthetic heart-shaped herb.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and she awakens in the throne room that is flooded, and you expect for her to see either her mother, not that that's exactly the way that the ancestral plane works, because it has to be a former Black Panther. So you expect her, honestly, I expected her to see her father. because it's like he was a former Black Panther. That's who T'Challa sees. And then even if this was like what they did in the first film, you could see like the Panther that was T'Challa's Panther in the background or something like that. But what they do is they bring back my man Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. Yes. He's a good villain in that movie, but I'm not like, oh my God, he's the best villain ever in Marvel. Like, no,
it was just the reveal. You weren't expecting,
but that reveal is insane. But the thing about the reveal isn't even the best part. It is the sentiment and the exact what he is saying in that scene. It is phenomenal of talking about the ideas of, are you going to get stuff done like me? Are you going to be like noble, like your brother? Are you going to be like a hypocrite, like your father? And the whole aspect of this movie of showing that Shuri definitely like is like not she is not T'Challa at all. And she takes her vengeance not in fully, but like she's not a noble person, especially in the state that she's in and has been in because of all the stuff that's happened to her. It's like, it's understandable in ways, but it's interesting to show like the thematic parallels between characters that they want to bring up. They're like, we don't want to bring up the good sides of her. Let's bring up the more negative stuff and not make that completely a negative thing. And also the cinematography in that scene was cool because the fire looked amazing in that scene. And just the way they were doing that is a cool visual flair. But
yeah, the meaning behind that and how it looked and was presented and everything, it took me so off, like I was so caught off guard with that. It was cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. What were you going to say though?
I was going to say, I thought it was just what I alluded to earlier, but yeah, her mom dying.
Oh yeah, Queen Ramonda.
I think so.
I think it's Ramonda. I'm not sure, but
yeah, the Queen.
Yeah, Angela
about
Bassett.
halfway through, Angela Bassett's character, the Queen, is killed, and they basically, the thing that really struck me is like they didn't do the whole funeral procession thing again. I don't think they could have, honestly, because the city was so damaged. But the thing that struck me was how we saw this at the beginning and everything with the coffin. And then it's like it happens, it gets, raised up, and then it's like it happens again. And it's right back where we started. It's like the same people, basically, more or less, same positions and everybody, same attire. And it's like, it was just a beatdown of like, are you kidding me? And that's what translated to like much more of a, because I knew that Shuri was going to be kind of held as the main character and become the Black Panther in this movie, but I didn't know how that was going to hold up. Not because like I love her in the first film, but when you lose your your primary role, your lead role, yeah, exactly. You don't know how it's going to be held together. Like, what's the story really going to be, and everything like that. This doubled down to make me say, okay, this really is Shuri's story. This is how Shuri is handling it. There's no other like possible way to look at it. This is very much like her story. So she's the Black Panther now, but it's like, that's like it's saying, that's really just a title. We're not dwelling on, because that's the thing, as much as this was a tribute movie, this is very much not dwelling on Chadwick Boseman's death or like T'Challa's death in the world. It's moving on. Yeah. Like that's what it has to be. And Shuri being so solid in that and having that double whammy of deaths, which sounds so terrible to say, but like that's what happens. And it really builds her into her own character that is, stricken with this idea of revenge, but also just wanting to find peace with, the deaths that happen at the same time. It works. I love that.
Well, I didn't mind that. This is what I will say is I didn't mind that it focused mainly on her and it became her story. But my main thing is that I honestly, what I expected for them to do and what I might have honestly preferred, even though I did enjoy this movie, is Black Panther and the world that that film creates, and even just Infinity War helps to develop. That cast is an ensemble cast. It's like, yes, you have your lead, but it has a very big ensemble cast. And this film also develops that and adds more people to this ensemble cast. And I genuinely don't understand. I mean, I understand now from like seeing the movie, and I think they did it well with having a primary character and a primary narrative of like one focus. But I was very surprised, and I honestly think they could have done it a more interesting and not better, but like they could have done a different film that would have been more focused on the ensemble aspect of the cast and had a better or had a different type of movie that could have been also really cool. But I'm not mad that they didn't, because they did it very well with what they were going for and everything like that. But yeah,
they did still have to juggle a lot of characters, and yeah, the fact they did add more like Ironheart, which I was gonna say I don't want to dwell on this too much because it wasn't very critical to the story, but I love her character. It wasn't. I think she's my favorite Phase 4 character that wasn't already established.
That's ridiculous.
Like a new character. Okay. And just this is so nerdy and MCU, the part of me that loves MCU and stuff, but I loved the scene where she was hammering the suit together because it was so reminiscent of Tony Stark in the cave. It was cheap, grabbing for it, but I loved it. I ate it up, and if that makes me, but it worked because it wasn't like they dwelled on it. But it wasn't her movie, but she was such a smart way to do a team up thing and carry on a character without having her overtake the story in any way. She was critical to the plot, but it wasn't about her. It wasn't like America Chavez and don't hug me.
This is where
oh my God. This is strange.
This is where I completely disagree with you. Actually, Ironheart and Riri Williams was not necessary to the plot of this movie at all. No, genuinely, there was they made reasons for her to be in this movie, but there was no inherent reason for her.
That was the plot, though. Yeah, that was the plot. That was the whole thing with Namor and everything. But she was the scientist. I guess the scientist could have been anybody, but why not make it a new character that could be built in more?
I think she stayed around for too long. I didn't.
She was barely in it. She was very much the most supporting character ever.
But she was there through the entire movie after they introduced her, and she was one of the main leads in the movie, technically. But
she was my
main disagreement is that you say in America it was more necessary than America Chavez was the plot of that movie. She was both a MacGuffin for the actual movie and actually a character in it. It was very necessary to that movie. And yes, you can feel how you want to feel about the writing of everyone in that movie, but I genuinely do think that she was a lot more necessary to that movie.
I guess they are both necessary, but that's so I guess, I didn't really think about it that way. I will say, though, they were both, let's take both of those characters, for instance, both in the whole movie. But when you're talking about Ironheart could have Riri Williams, whatever her main character name is, could have just been in a small thing and then maybe been left out. I think that would have been even a cheaper way to just be look at this new character and she's going to have a show. They actually developed her and she was integral to the plot. She wasn't in your face the whole time, but she was, it was, at the end of the day, sometimes all a character needs to be is cool, at least for these introductions. It's like seeing Spider-Man or even Black Panther for the first time in Civil War. Really, it was just a cool taste of a hero. Yeah. They helped out the main characters, but they weren't critical because you knew down the line you'd get more in-depth personal development about them, but it made them likable. And that's how I feel about her that I don't feel about America Chavez, because she was right in there the whole time. And in my opinion, Chavez, wasn't a likable.
Great. But, but no, and my whole thing, I don't mind Ironheart being there for the entire movie. I think that I agree with what you were saying, is that it's a good reason to do, or it's a good way to do that. But my main thing is that whereas that felt, I don't want to put this in the wrong way, but whereas that felt, here we have this character for you that we would like you to put in there, and then they actually put it in there and they make it feel pretty natural, which is Wakanda Forever's whole MO, versus but it still feels like a character put in to develop something else, versus America Chavez just feels like, yep, just a character in that movie. It's not doesn't feel like it's to develop anything else. Because she is so integral to that plot. She's not tangential to that plot at all. She is the plot for a primary, and she is one of the leads in that movie, to where it doesn't feel obviously it's the MCU, so they could spin her off into a billion different things. let's go champions. But it's not in it. It feels more organic than maybe Ironheart did, but not bad in any ways. My main thing is that not my main thing, because I've said my main thing is a main thing a million times. But I didn't like Ironheart that much because she's one of the only characters in that entire movie that actually does the Marvel quippiness, and it just doesn't feel like it's needed in this movie. It's her and Val are the.
It was barely there though.
Yes, no, but they are, but everyone else doesn't, and in a movie that feels genuinely so like not serious for most of its time, because it's still a big old blockbuster, but it feels like it's just like, no, we're not really doing that this time. But then every single scene that those two are in is quip quip. It's not that that's their entire dialogue, but it kind of felt like, oh, we're really dipping back into this only for a couple of characters. And why exactly? Because it didn't feel like they needed to.
I don't think it detracted from the more somber, serious tone of it at all, because even like, not to get like real world and dark, but like a lot of people do cope with more serious things like loss and stuff like that with humor in a way. And I think that I'm not saying that was directly why they put that in. I'm not trying to make an excuse for it, but I do think it worked and meshed more than you're giving it credit for, because it wasn't overbearing. It wasn't like every time they were flying around, they were saying goofy stuff the whole time. It was like there were some comments here or there, but not really. Yeah. She was pretty like into it. Like, she was like, I'm going to take this thing and fly it. Like, and really there were only 2 scenes where she was, I guess 3 with the initial flooding, but it was like, she was saying some stuff, but it was, I didn't take it so much as Marvel quippiness so much as just like what a college age not self-deprecating, but like something that I would say. Like,
yes, I think that in ways but that's the thing, is I just think it was too much. It went over. Like, if you do it like the normal like stuff, it just became too much. But it's not bad. It's just like and that's also goes into what I was saying with the Val thing. It's like every single scene that she was in, it was like, oh, well, I got to get some jokes off, but it's not like they feel like jokes for a natural joke sense. It's like, no, we're gonna write these jokes in, but whatever. And different opinions, agree to disagree, and that's okay.
Exactly.
That's film criticism, everyone. If you don't like any of our opinions, or Andrew and I don't like each other's, that's
you can
okay.
Go to hell. Wait, what? Sorry, was that not what you were gonna say? Oh, oops.
Hey man, that's the best thing about film, is that it's art, and art is interpretable and open to everyone else's opinions.
Exactly. I don't know. So that's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I don't really have anything else like super critical to say about it.
No. Oh, well, I was just gonna say I like Namor. But because he's not Namor from the my main thing is like he lacks the sole attribute that I really like about Namor from any comics that I've read with Namor, but that is a-okay because they made a cool or different character that still held on to some of the stuff. So so be it, and he's cool, and Talokan is cool, and I like what they did with that versus just doing Atlantis. But do you want to touch a little bit on anything that you think could actually be integrated into theme parks? Because I know like this has always been a conversation of, oh, like Disney could do a Wakanda land or whatever. But anything specifically from this, because I think we have touched on Wakanda as a land before in a previous episode. But I would say, is there anything specifically in this film that you think would lend itself well to a land or attraction based thing? Because I can think of one thing, but do you have anything, or do you want me to speak on mine so you have time to think?
Well, that's a good way to phrase it. I just want to say, like, in the interest of time, we're running pretty long, so that's probably a good way to go about it, as opposed to rehashing like a whole just like how it can. Because we have talked about it, and that's what I was going to touch on, is just like what I would add to it. Give me a time to think while you're sharing your idea.
Okay, so mainly the only thing I could think of is actually a way for them to do this, and this is honestly actually building off of what happened in the first film. It's not even that it honestly is only brought up like 3 times in this entire movie. But the way to do this wouldn't be you are going to Wakanda, do it in an Avengers Campus way. where they have all the outreach centers of Wakanda, of like where they opened up they're like, oh, we're gonna do that little one in, I don't know if it was Oakland or what, but then like Martin Freeman's character was also like, oh well, they're recruiting Riri Williams for their like outreach centers and everything, and it's like you can do like this is like just like Avengers Campus is in Disneyland. It's like this is an outreach center for Wakanda. So it's like have like the architecture there of like what it would be, but don't have it be Wakanda itself. I think that would just be a smart way to do it, even though people would be like, I want to go to Wakanda though. And it's like, well, sorry, but hey.
That's a good way to integrate it. If like, let's say maybe Disney did do a land down the line in Walt Disney World, but Disneyland didn't have the space. Maybe they still could like put like a little outreach center thing in Avengers Campus. Honestly, that's probably on the dock. Like I don't even think
they would put it. I think they would make it a complete land of its own, but I think they should do it in that way though. I don't think they should do a small way,
or like a mini land.
I think they should do it. No, I think they should do like a full size land, but it just.
I'm just saying, you're not hearing what I'm saying. Like I'm just saying, like if it's a space issue.
Oh yeah. I mean, with Disneyland Forward, it's not going to be.
Exactly. They'll build it on top of Avengers Campus.
Yes. You have any?
Yeah. So it's not a full idea like that, but I was just trying to think, okay, what was my favorite like visual part of the movie / like what do I think could translate the best? And there was so much of like the ground level like shops and stalls and stuff like that, and like the more village area of the city, especially when they were doing the funerals and walking through it, and even in some parts of the middle of the movie that we got to see. And I would just like to see more of that type of stuff, like in place. And it could be there, or I really think if it was in like a land, which that's what I may be thinking of, because I've been on the train of building a Wakanda land somewhere, or like a Wakanda area. And I think that would definitely, I would want representation of that in the land, because one, it's just a good way to get, shops and merchandise and food. And, that's the boring corporate side of the theme parks, but also like that's
good architecture.
It is. And that part just struck me as so beautiful in the movie, of like seeing all that stuff. Do you know what eco-brutalism is by any chance?
Eco-brutalism.
It's like a whole like urban, I don't want to say it wrong. It's like an urban development thing that's like, it was not popular, but because there's like some like serious cons to it. Again, I don't want to go too much in depth about it, but it's just this eco-brutalism. It's a lot of like industrial, almost like apocalyptic architecture, I guess, in a way. It's a lot of like concrete and stuff like that, but also like, and like leveled buildings, but also a lot of like greenery and stuff like that. A lot of the architecture in Wakanda of what we saw, especially in this movie, is sort of eco-brutalism in a way. And I think that visual, while again, I don't want to say like what it is, because I might say it wrong, but like there is like a lot of bad environmental impact to it in the real world. I think that the visuals of it could translate really well in a land. So we just got to see a lot of like architecture. I don't have anything specific for like a ride or anything, but I don't think it was necessary.
I don't think this film lends well to that, but that's, hey, that's fine.
Wonderful theming though. At the end of the day, that's all we could ever want.
That is all we could ever want.
Anything else to say on Wakanda Forever, or
no,
we wrapping it up?
I was going to say that those are our thoughts. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good movie. Go see it if you haven't. It's I'm sure going to be in theaters for a hot minute.
A long while. Yeah.
I think the next movie we should do this for, because I think we should talk about movies every once in a while, like a little bit of a bigger discussion. I think Avatar, like the next one. That's probably absolutely. Like the next, like, because I don't think we talk about like I mean, we take the smaller recommendations or segments for like smaller movies, but like if it's a Disney related or Universal, like bigger thing,
a thing that can be worked into a theme park is what we will talk about. We're not just going to turn this into a film podcast. That's not the MO.
Exactly. But we do like to incorporate it. And I think that Avatar, The Way of Water would be a perfect way to do that. So
I can't wait to.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap then. You got anything to plug before I go to Trader Joe's and buy some delicious foodstuffs? Anything?
I guess I have my normal of just a couple of films that I've watched over the past couple of weeks. the L. Yankovic story just came out like a week or two ago on the Roku channel. Terrible watching experience. Fun film for the most part. Watch it if you like Weird Al. That's my little rec for that. See How They Run is a movie that came out this year in like September. Had like a smaller theatrical release. It was a Searchlight Pictures, so previously 20th Century Fox. But so it got like pushed onto HBO Max really quickly. But yeah, See How They Run. It's a nice little like whodunit about a whodunit, which is really a fun little thing. Yeah, it's a little bit Wes-esque, and I don't say that to be like derivative, like Wes Anderson, but at the same, I don't say that to be like, oh, it's just a Wes Anderson. No, it's not. It's different enough in its own thing, but it has a fun little whippy style of the camera, and that's always fun. And then my only other thing is there's a movie from the 90s. Yeah, it's the 90s. It's from 1994. It's called The Hudsucker Proxy. This is a fantastic little movie about a plant CEO of like a company that he's like put into the CEO role, and he wants to make the hula hoop. That's not really what the movie's about, but that's the pitch I'll give you because it's actually really fun. It's by Joel Cohen, one of the Coen brothers, and it's also written by Sam Raimi, and Sam Raimi is also an assistant director on it. So. He did Spider-Man,
which is Marvel, yes. So it all ties back together, and that's why you guys should watch it.
And that movie's fantastic. That's definitely it's a 10 out of 10. It's fantastic. It makes New York look like Gotham City in any of the Burton movies, and it just looks so good. But yeah, those are my three little recs.
Those are some good recs. The only thing I have to plug is I'm a little late to the party, but started watching Andor. I think I'm not all the way caught up, but I'm on episode 8, I think. And it's wonderful. Like everything that people are saying about it is just, it gets better and better. It's fantastic. It would work if it wasn't a Star Wars show, but because it's in the Star Wars universe, in my opinion, it makes it all the better. It's just so good. Go watch it if you like Star Wars at all, or even if you like intense like thriller drama of just like it's the rebel story of Star Wars, but told in a very different light. Just I can't quite describe it yet, and that's why I hesitated plugging it. And I'm sure people are already watching it because, like I said, I'm late to the party with it. But if you're not, and if you like Star Wars, go watch Andor. It's worth your time more than any other Disney Star Wars thing that they've done, in my opinion. So it's terrific.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty. Oh, and Pokemon comes out this Friday, so if we're ready for that, woo, Scarlet Violet. And that's where we lost all our interest of our listeners. So
we talk about it for 20 minutes at the opening. So
well, it's I'll cut that around.
We'll edit that out. We'll edit that out. Yeah.
Well, it'll be a little bit. All right. You want to sign us off, Brandon? Say the usual.
We'll catch you guys later. Thanks for listening, folks.